What is this silliness? Why do you want to go to New York?
Because it's Christmas in New York, and there's snow.
Christmas in New York. Sounds like a very simple title for a holiday movie, right? I mean, if someone asked me if I saw a film where it was set in New York City during Christmas time, my first question is to ask, which one? But this, however, stands out from the others because not only is this animated, but it is also brought to us by the infamous Italian animation studio, Mondo TV.
Oh, what a horrible place!
I am aware that not many know that name, but there is something they created that you might be familiar with. Do you remember that animated Titanic movie with magical tears that lets you talk to animals, an evil whaler, prison sharks, a giant friendly octopus with a dog face, and starting the movie with a theory about all the deaths that happened during the tragedy by saying,
"The truth of the matter is that those missing persons were never really missing. It's all a misunderstanding."
And if you think that's insane, wait until you hear about the sequel where the main survivors go to Atlantis where they meet some living toys and have to stop some evil rats from trying to take over the world. But my point is that Mondo TV was responsible for those films, and have since developed a reputation of creating some of the most unhinged pieces of animation. So if they produced a movie and gave it one of the blandest titles imaginable, like Christmas in New York, do not be fooled to think that this will be generic. There will be lots of surprises in store, and I'm scared to find out what they are. With Mondo, you never know if they'll give you talking mice, rewrite history like a maniac, or send you a cease and desist for making videos about their films. That is not a joke, by the way. That actually happened to me once.
I'll get you, Fox. I'll get you for sure. I'll get you.
What have you done to make him so angry?
So now that we're about to see how Mondo celebrates Christmas in New York, will the magic of the holidays be enough to save this movie? Or is this just the Christmas version of a Titanic-sized disaster? Let's find out. The story. On the surface, it seems like your typical Christmas movie that encourages the viewer to do acts of kindness and help those in need so that they could also be happy during the holiday season. As the story focuses on a boy named Ari who helps the lower class of New York to have some Christmas cheer as he looks for Santa Claus so that he could have his wish come true.
Dear Father Christmas, they've told me that you make children's wishes come true. I want to stay a while with my daddy and mummy, who I haven't seen for a long time.
Sounds simple enough to make something that can at least be heartfelt. But let's not forget that this is a Mondo TV production. And we can't just let something like this be simple. We need some extra elements to ensure that you don't leave without feeling absolutely confused as to whatever you just witnessed. For starters, let's not have Ari be an ordinary kid. How about we introduce him as a jungle boy whose only friends are the animals that live there, like 2 dogs and an owl professor? And yes, while those dogs do talk and join him in New York, let's take it a step further and always keep the viewer guessing if it's just Ari or all humans can comprehend what they're saying. But if they all started in the jungle, how did they get to New York? Well, how about by going inside a giant living tree who could carry them to most places in the world? Although I'll give it that this makes sense when you realize that the tree is actually a demon from hell.
Hello, Ali. My compliments. I see that you're dressed for your great adventure.
And this is all just how the movie starts. Once they quickly get themselves into New York City, the plot becomes a repetitive, jumbled up mess. It's as if the movie doesn't have a script and instead uses a holiday-themed Mad Libs book to tell the boys' adventure. Technically, there are a few things that are consistent throughout the film, other than always having nonsensical shenanigans thrown at you, such as Ari's mission to meet Santa so that his wish can be fulfilled, and a side quest where he has to figure out what are the names of all the reindeer. Because I guess this is a world where the song Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer doesn't exist, and those names are a well-guarded secret like it's the Da Vinci Code.
You know the names of the reindeer?
It's very important for Santa Claus. After Christmas, it's very important for
I
him.
don't know them. I'm sorry, but I don't know them.
And would you be surprised if I say that this side plot contributes to absolutely nothing? But what you mostly get from the story is a continuous cycle of Ari and the dogs wanting to help the poor with solutions that feel like they are made up on the spot. They're brought to a place where people are less fortunate, meet some weird characters, they feel sad, and then they come up with a solution so random that allows the folks to have a happier Christmas. And I do mean that these solutions are so random that it is impossible to guess. Like, how can a soup kitchen provide better food to the poor? Well, how about if Ari gives them a ruby that just so happens to be part of his jacket where he has them in full display as buttons, yet nobody bothers to notice? Or how about figuring out those names of the reindeer and giving his mail to Santa? Well, good thing they got their demon tree because it could bring them to some forest that has a hut with all the elves, gnomes, and animals making gifts for Santa to deliver, and have a deer make the head of the elf spill the beans on the reindeer names and find the answer to Ari's mail solution. Which is to go back to New York and put the mail in the mailbox. Or how about when they meet a sick girl in a wheelchair? How could they help her and make her walk again? Snowflake Fairy.
Hello, Ari.
Hello?
With every situation that the characters go out to resolve, it delivers something that's so over the top and unexpected that it requires some time for the viewers to try to register what they have just witnessed. And by the time they let that moment sink in, they throw in another piece of bombastic randomness to repeat the cycle again and again and again until the credits roll. It makes the story hard to follow, not because of its flow feeling convoluted, but because of how its ideas are so crazy that trying to make sense of it is distracting from following the plot. Seriously, what lunatic came up with this tale where they never once acknowledged the lack of their logic? Oh wait. And the poor was able to have a great feast thanks to Ari giving the church a precious ruby that is a part of his jacket.
Grandpa, please, I'm tired.
Then when they found the evil dog catcher, he was actually good and then met his sick wheelchair-bound daughter. But thankfully, a snowflake fairy came to grant their wish and she was able to walk again.
Grandma, did Grandpa take his pills today? We ran out yesterday, dear.
Yep, that checks out. And then after seeing the nice orphans, they were able to trick some violent gangsters by scaring them with dogs, allowing the heroes to take the hundreds of thousands of dollars that the criminals left and give it all to the orphanage.
Grandpa, I'm calling Christine to bring you back to the hospital. It's going to be okay.
Oh, I'm sure it will all be okay. As long as we drink our raw milk like what President Trump demands, then we will all be cured of autism. I know it's true because Elon Musk said so on X.
I should have never given him that iPad.
Even if it has a tiny piece of heart to show that it's good to help the poor, it's just not worth it to also gain the experience of holiday-themed madness. It's a story that's broken into pieces, yet when you try to put them together, the picture makes even less sense where it leaves you with more frustrating confusion than holiday cheer. The animation. Of course, these moments wouldn't be as uncomfortably bizarre as they are if it wasn't for the help of the animation to bring these questionable ideas to life. I mean, it shouldn't come to a surprise that we end up with a disaster like this when we're pretty much leaving Christmas in the hands of the North Koreans. That is also not a joke, by the way. Mondo TV's animation is generally outsourced by a studio in North Korea, and they did get in trouble with the United States government for it.
Well, you mustn't despair. You've tried.
But I will admit that when it comes to Mondo TV's animation in general, at best, it is okay. It's not great at all, and I understand if it's debatable if it can be considered good, but its visuals aren't as horrible as the writing in the company's works, and they can make it to the levels of being passable. And in the case of Christmas in New York, I'd make some of those same arguments. Yes, the overall quality is closer to something on television, and the designs are a bit off-putting, where they range from looking like mock Disney to stepping into uncanny realism, but there is a pleasant look to it with how the theme of Christmas does give it an excuse to showcase more colors, especially in New York to show how the city comes to life at night with all the lights, along with the backgrounds being nicely painted. While generic in its depiction, it does the job to show how Arya is walking around in the big city. That, and there are times when the character animation is pretty good and have the team showcase their talent with people physically expressing their emotions or just dancing around. However, while there are some parts I will give it credit for, I'll say that the animation is not polished at all. It's in the details where you see more of the film's oddities that they don't tell you. There are some that can be minor, and others where it's hard not to notice the problem. A great example is how everything is put together. This is an issue where it can be inconsistent. Sometimes the image looks fine, where all the elements come together pretty well, but then there are times when the characters seem to stick out a bit too much from their backgrounds. Often due to the lack of shadows underneath them, their colors remain mostly flat with next to no changes regardless of where they are, or rarely having a connection with the environment like leaving footprints in the snow. And then there are times when the problem is more apparent when the background is too blurred, which gives a weird contrast to how clear the characters look. But what's even stranger is that the film seems to have a hard time to draw toys. And a way to work around that is to use a bunch of real-life images of toys that stick out like a sore thumb. Also, you may have noticed something even weirder where some are not just images of toys. They're also copyrighted with dolls of Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, and Winnie the Pooh. And this wasn't just a one-time thing. Those three seem to be the movie's favorite, as they pop up quite frequently all around New York. I'll give the movie this: it's got guts flaunting Mickey's image around without the fear of catching the attention of Disney's lawyers. I mean, I've seen them sue for less.
Oh, it doesn't matter now, let me sleep.
Alright.
But of course, I have to bring back those unexpected surprises because, again, the animation plays a significant role in their weirdness. Part of their baffling nature is not just how their concepts sound spontaneously off-putting, but also, their depictions can look like they don't belong in the film either. Sometimes, it can deviate from its regular designs and bring in something that feels like it probably belongs in a different movie. That, and the weird surprises can be from the things that they don't acknowledge, like when Arya and the dogs were dancing with so much joy, the house in front of them grew a face and started dancing as well.
Maybe it's just the candlelight.
Maybe hunger is giving me hallucinations.
Yeah, you're right.
All I meant that the animation is not the worst thing from this movie, nor is it the worst visuals I've seen either. There can be a few parts you could find that actually looks fine. But when looking at the big picture, it's still unpolished with a lot of inconsistencies and elements that are out of place. And this is not to mention the unethical factor of how this was made. The animation is not good, but amazingly not the worst thing it delivers. The characters. A big part of what makes these Christmas movies so special is seeing the adventures in New York through the eyes of charming characters like Kevin McAllister, Susan Walker, and Buddy the Elf. The ones in Christmas in New York, however, are not among them. In fact, they make the experience feel so much worse, and a major part of it is because of the movie's voice acting. No disrespect to the voice cast themselves, but these performances are horrible. I could be wrong, but I don't think they got professional actors in this. It's like if they just brought in a bunch of Mondo TV's employees who could speak English to do the dub. And yes, since this is primarily an Italian film, the English version counts as a dub. And they make it very clear with the amount of times that the characters talk over each other because the voices could only follow the mouth movements that were already animated.
Thank you for your help, but unfortunately now we really have to go.
Oh, I'm very sorry. Do you really have to go?
Yes, unfortunately, yes. Let's go!
But the worst part about it is that this is the kind of movie that thinks the viewer would get bored if there is a silent moment at any point. And the only way to soothe that anxiety is by having the actors make as much noise as possible, regardless if it's with their words or just whatever sound they can make, just to be sure that there is never a moment where the characters just shut up. And if that's not enough, they also offer that in laughably bad animal noises. But as for the characters themselves, it's safe to say that the film values the amount of words they say instead of their personalities, because their roles are the only things that are simple to understand. Ari is the jungle boy who learns about human society and has a big heart by prioritizing his selflessness, all while seeking out Santa Claus so that he could fulfill his wish to reunite with his parents.
Who could possibly give us all the information that we need?
Don't worry. You'll see that someone will tell us where we can find Father Christmas.
And let's not forget that we also need to know the names of the reindeer.
As for his two dog friends, there's Fox, who is the New York expert who knows everybody in the city and navigates the boy on where to go next, and Winner, who helps, I guess. I honestly don't know what his purpose in this is, so I'm just gonna say that he helps and that's it. As for any other characters, the only way they can be memorable is by how weird they can be. There are those that want to help Ari, but can be extremely creepy about it, and some are able to do so just by their unnatural existence alone, like the Owl Professor and Arbor the Demon Tree. But if there is one side character that stands out from the rest, I gotta go with the dog catcher. The movie started by trying to make him as repulsive as possible with how much he wants to get rid of Fox, like have him be so mean and disgusting to a fault. But then halfway into the picture, the film decided to give him a change of heart so big, I was convinced that he's actually a completely different character. Seriously, that shit felt more jarring than touching because it's like the movie got bored with having a villain and said, let's make him good now. That'll give me something else to do.
No, you're wrong. I can assure you I don't hate dogs. No, you're crazy if you can say that. How can we manage to speak like that about me? No, it's not like that.
With some people, it's possible.
No, I love you. I was just a bit emotional, that's all.
To go back to the main characters, however, the craziest part about them is actually in the ending. Without spoiling too much, as the conclusion was going on, the movie decided to throw out some major backstory about Ari that it ends the feature with me having more questions than answers, bringing up some wild stuff that no one would ever guess as to why his parents had to leave him in the jungle. Seriously, I was baffled by how this threw that in the end with no context whatsoever.
Yes, he heard ours, but could you explain what the fridge is going on with, like, why do you have to abandon him in the jungle and, like, oh, you can't keep him or else he, like, something is gonna kill him, like, what is this? What are you doing?
Or is there actual context? After watching the movie, I did a bit of research on Christmas in New York, and I discovered that this was just the tip of the iceberg of the whole story that Mondo TV was developing. Around the same time as the movie, the company released a tie-in series called Winner and the Golden Child, which goes into Ari's life in the jungle with Winner, Fox, and several other animal friends. And what's more, the series is a successor to 2 other Mondo TV shows. one being The Legend of Sleeping Beauty, which tells the story of Ari's parents, and Simba the King Lion, which features his animal friends such as Winner, along with the ripoffs of The Lion King, The Jungle Book, and Bambi. On top of that, Simba also has a sequel series that ties into this, where the animals decided to join Winner on his new path in life, which is to be the coach of a soccer team in New York that wants to win the World Cup. I am shocked how there is actually so much more to this. And maybe if I gained the knowledge of watching these episodes to know the full picture of this Mondo TV world, will I gain more of an understanding about Christmas in New York? Absolutely not! This actually makes the movie even worse because it kept a good amount of context behind over 100 episodes of some stupid shows that I'm not interested in watching. Seriously, I'm drawing the line when understanding a crappy Christmas movie a little more requires me to do MCU levels of research that includes watching an entire show called Simba Jr. to the World Cup. There is nothing that can convince me that the time needed to do all that is worth it.
Poor little Ari. He must have been impressed by what he had seen.
As bad as everything in this movie is, it's the characters that are the biggest lost cause. Their acting is terrible, they can never shut up, a lot of them are too weird, and they leave out context that might as well be as good as lost. Ari may have spread Christmas cheer to many, but I'm not one of them. I think it's safe to say that Christmas time in New York City is absolutely nothing like this. Christmas in New York is not just one of the worst, but is also possibly the most insane Christmas movie ever created. While it doesn't canonically have a connection to them, this is like the holiday version of their infamous Titanic films with the same unhinged nature and baffling surprises around every corner. The story is a complete repetitive mess that makes things up as it goes, the characters are either bland or uncomfortably weird, the voice acting is abysmal, and while the animation is not horrible, it isn't good either. If you actually choose to watch this movie, then I highly recommend to prepare yourself. I don't mean to go and watch all those series beforehand, you don't have to do that to yourself. But I mean that you have to be ready to expect the unexpected. Nothing will make sense, and it will not try to make sense. It's either you accept the insanity, or watch in terror. And by the way, if you enjoyed this piece of insanity that I did here, then how about giving this review a like and subscribe to my channel? You can also join my Patreon, where we could do a gift exchange where you support my work and I give you some fun rewards. Forget Jack Skellington, watching this movie is the real Nightmare Before Christmas. And that's why I'm giving this the Animat seal of garbage. May your holidays be better and more pleasant than whatever the fridge Mondo TV created. Hey guys, this is Animat. I want to start things off by giving out a huge thanks to Jerry McGrory, whose amazing support on Patreon allowed him to get some amazing rewards, including this one, where he got to ask me to review Christmas in New York. And may I say, it has been quite a long time since I've watched, let alone reviewed, a movie that is this unhinged, that is this absolutely insane. As you could probably tell, it's been quite a while since I've seen anything from Mondo, and this is like a refresher of how you have to expect the unexpected with whatever project that they would have to bring out. But I will admit, as I was working on this review, I did have a bit of a thought that I feel like is very interesting, and I have been wondering, yes, this thing is absolutely terrible, but would this be considered the absolute worst animated Christmas movie ever made? And in that regard, I feel like that would be debatable. Because whenever animated Christmas movies are bad, they could be like next level bad. And I know because I have seen a bunch of animated Christmas movies where they could be absolutely terrible. I'm talking about stuff like Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer, Elf Bowling the Movie, The Christmas Tree, and of course, we cannot forget about what is possibly the reigning champion of worst animated Christmas movies, the one that the internet would go and immediately give that title to, Rap City Street Kids. And I'm just gonna go and say this right now, believe it or not, as of this review, I have yet to actually see that movie myself. But of course, I have definitely heard of a lot of the weird things that would occur in that movie. But still though, after watching Christmas in New York, even I feel like that would be debatable. Like, is Rap City Street Kids really that bad compared to Christmas in New York? Like, yeah, I know about that crazy rambling grandma, but is she really as crazy as what we have seen with The Dog Catcher or The Demon Tree? I feel like those are questions that need to be asked. But regardless of what the answer may be, I know that there could be like a big debate with it. Some could say yes, some could say no. But regardless, I personally feel like Christmas in New York is definitely a top contender for the title of the worst animated Christmas movie. But the good news though is that finally I am done with it. And now we can all officially move on to the next review, which shall be From the Animation Hat. And by the way, now before I go and pick the next review, I just want to go and say that if you would like to be like Jerry and you want to go and get some amazing rewards, including but not limited to seeing my videos before anyone else while at the same time supporting my work, then all you have to do is go to patreon.com/animat. But at the same time, if you would like to suggest an animated film you would like me to review and that I would put onto the animation hat, then all you have to do is write me an email at animatsreviews@gmail.com. All right, so now that we are done, you know, honestly, after watching that, all I am asking is just make me watch a better animated movie than this. Okay, so I picked one. I dropped a few, but I'll pick that up later. All I want is just something better than what we have just seen here. So the next review shall be, let's see now. Oh, okay, looks like I got my holiday wish then. Okay, this is gonna be a lot better. Oh my goodness. You know, this is one that I've definitely heard a lot of amazing things about. And to this day, it often stands as one of the best examples of independent animated features, or in terms of animated films that are not made in the US or North America or outside of Hollywood and stuff like that. So this is going to be very interesting. And I'll just say, like, honestly, I'll admit I'm not really as familiar, but let's just say that when it comes to this movie, it's pretty black and white in terms of how good this movie actually is. And with all that said, happy holidays, everybody, and see you later, dudes.
Now say goodbye to each other and then enter. It's time to go.